The champagne glass shattered on the marble floor of Club Noir. 6 days. That's how long Amara had been in Seoul. 6 days in a country where she didn't speak the language, didn't know the rules, didn't understand the silent hierarchies that governed every interaction. But she understood disrespect. When the man in the expensive suit grabbed her waist without asking, when his friends laughed as she tried to pull away, when he whispered something in Korean that made them laugh harder, she didn't think. She just reacted. The slap echoed through the VIP section like a gunshot. 300 people stopped moving. The DJ's hands froze on the turntable. Even the bartenders turned to stare. Because the man she'd just slapped, the man now touching his reddening cheek with something like wonder in his dark eyes, was Kang Minho, the most dangerous man in South Korea. And he was smiling. Welcome back. This story is going to blow your mind. Trust me, the plot twists will hit you out of nowhere. Smash that subscription button, grab your chair, watch till the end, let's dive in. 30 seconds earlier, Amara Osei had been having a terrible night. Her roommate Hana had dragged her to Club Noir, promising it would be the perfect way to celebrate finishing her first week as an English teacher in Seoul. Amara had wanted to stay home, unpack the last of her boxes, video call her mother in Accra. But Hana was relentless. You need to live a little. 6 days in Korea and you've only seen your apartment and the school. Come on. So here she was, in a dress Hana had lent her, too tight, too short, too everything, feeling completely out of place among Seoul's elite. The club was exclusive, the kind of place where you needed connections just to get past the door. Hana's boyfriend worked there, which was the only reason they'd gotten in. Just one drink, Amara had said. Then I'm going home. That one drink had led to 3. The bass was pounding, the lights were hypnotic, and for the first time since arriving in this overwhelming city, Amara felt herself relax. Then he appeared. At first, she didn't even see him. She was dancing with Hana, laughing at her friend's terrible moves, when suddenly there were hands on her waist. Firm, possessive hands that pulled her backward against someone's chest. She spun around, ready to politely decline, and found herself looking at a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp jawline, intense eyes, lips curved in a smirk that suggested he wasn't used to being told no. I don't dance with strangers, she said in English, trying to step back. His friends, 5 men in suits that probably cost more than her monthly salary, laughed. One of them said something in rapid Korean. Whatever it was made the others laugh harder. The man holding her waist leaned closer. His breath smelled like expensive whiskey. Kam Minho kin anus? He asked, American. Ghanaian, she corrected, still trying to create distance. And I said no. He said something else in Korean. His tone was playful, but his grip didn't loosen. His friends were watching now, phones out, filming. This was entertainment to them. Something in Amara snapped. She'd spent 6 days being stared at, being treated like an exotic curiosity, being talked about in a language she couldn't understand. She'd smiled through it, been patient, told herself it would get better. Not tonight. Her hand connected with his cheek, before she even realized she'd moved. The sound was obscene in the sudden silence. His head turned with the force of it, and when he looked back at her, there was a perfect red handprint on his left cheek. Amara's heart stopped. Around them, the crowd had backed away, creating a circle of empty space. Hana's face was ghost white. Amara, she whispered urgently in English. Do you know what you just did? He grabbed me, Amara said, her voice shaking but defiant. I don't care who. That's Kang Minho, Hana hissed. The Kang Minho. The name meant nothing to Amara, but the way everyone was looking at her, with horror, with pity, with the kind of fascination people have for car crashes, told her everything. She'd made a terrible mistake. Kang Minho touched his cheek slowly, his fingers tracing where her hand had landed. Then he did something no one expected. He laughed. Not a cruel laugh, not even an angry laugh. It was genuine, delighted, the kind of laugh that transforms a face completely. What's your name? He asked in perfect, unaccented English. Amara blinked. Of all the reactions she'd expected, violence, threats, having security drag her out, this wasn't one of them. "Why?" she managed. "Because," he said, stepping closer, "I need to know the name of the woman who just did what no one in Seoul has dared to do in 5 years." "Amara," she said, lifting her chin despite her racing heart. "Amara Osei." He repeated it slowly, like he was memorizing the syllables. Then he turned to his friends, his expression shifting from amused to something colder, and said something in Korean that made them all immediately bow and back away. When he looked at her again, his eyes were different, intense, hungry. "Dance with me properly this time," he said. "Please." She should have said no, should have grabbed Hana and run. But something about the way he'd said please, like the word was foreign to him, like he was trying it out for the first time, made her hesitate. "One dance," she said, "then you leave me alone." "One dance," he agreed. He led her to the center of the floor. The DJ, reading the room, switched to something slower. Minhyu's hands found her waist again, but this time he held her like she was made of glass. "I apologize," he whispered, "for grabbing you, for making you uncomfortable, for my friends being idiots." "Your friends are terrified of you," she observed. "Everyone is terrified of me," he smiled, "except you." "I'm plenty terrified," Amara admitted. "I'm just better at hiding it than they are." "No," he said, his eyes searching her face. "You're not afraid, you were angry, there's a difference." They moved together in silence for a moment. He was a good dancer, surprisingly graceful for someone who looked like he spent most of his time being intimidating. "What did your friend tell you about me?" he asked. "Just your name, that you're someone important." "Important," he repeated, amused. "That's one word for it." "Should I be more worried than I am?" He considered this seriously. "Probably, but you won't be, you're not the worrying type." "You got all that from one slap." "I got all that from the way you look at me, like I'm just a man who needs better manners." His smile turned self-deprecating. "Which, to be fair, I do." The song ended. Amara stepped back, ready to fulfill her promise and disappear into the crowd. "Wait," Minhyuk said. "Your number." "Absolutely not." "Dinner then, tomorrow night." "I don't date men who grab women without asking." "Good policy, I'll send flowers to apologize." He pulled out his phone. "Where should I send them?" "How do you know where I live?" "I don't, yet, but I can find out." He said it matter-of-factly, without threat. "Or you can tell me and make it easier." Hana appeared at Amara's elbow. "We should go," she said urgently. "Now." Minyu's eyes never left Amara's face. "One more dance." "You said one." I lied. Despite everything, the stairs, the obvious danger, the voice in her head screaming to run, Amara found herself smiling. "One more," she conceded. "But if you grab me inappropriately again, I'll slap you harder." "Promise." He pulled her back into his arms, and this time when he smiled, it reached his eyes. "I think I'm in love." "You're insane." "Completely," he agreed. "You've ruined me in approximately 8 minutes. It's very inconvenient." 20 minutes later, Hana was hyperventilating in the taxi. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" she kept repeating. "Do you have any idea?" "He was being handsy," Amara said defensively. "What was I supposed to do?" "Not slap the head of the Kang family." Hana clutched her chest dramatically. "He could have killed you, right there, in front of everyone, and no one would have stopped him." "He didn't seem like he wanted to kill me." "He seemed like he wanted to eat you alive, which might be worse." Amara stared out the window at Seoul's neon-lit streets. Her hand was still tingling where it had connected with his face. "Who is he, really?" Hana took a shaky breath. "The Kang family controls most of the underground in Seoul. Drugs, gambling, protection. If it's illegal and profitable, they're involved. Minyu took over from his father 5 years ago, and he's even more ruthless. They call him the Ice Prince because he never shows emotion, never loses control." "He laughed when I slapped him." "Exactly. That's why I'm freaking out. That's not normal. Nothing about tonight was normal." When they reached Amara's apartment building, Hana grabbed her arm. "Promise me you'll stay away from him. If he contacts you, ignore it. Men like that, they're dangerous. They destroy everything they touch." "I'm not planning to see him again," Amara assured her. It was true, she wasn't planning to. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. Amara woke to the sound of someone pounding on her door. She stumbled out of bed, still in her pajamas, and opened it to find her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Kim, looking frantic. "Flowers," Mrs. Kim said in broken English, gesturing wildly. "Many flowers, too many." Amara followed her into the hallway and stopped dead. The entire corridor was filled with roses. Red roses, white roses, pink roses, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, arranged in elaborate displays that left barely enough room to walk. "What?" she breathed. "For you," Mrs. Kim said, pointing at the card attached to the nearest arrangement. "Delivery man say for Amara Osei." Amara pulled out the card with shaking hands. "I'm sorry, I should have asked before dancing. I should have made my friends apologize. I should have protected you from the attention my presence brings. I'm learning. KM." "Who is KM?" Mrs. Kim asked, eyes wide with curiosity. "A mistake," Amara muttered. But as she looked at the sea of flowers, at the obvious expense and effort, she couldn't help feeling something flutter in her chest. He was insane, absolutely insane. And somehow, that made it worse. At work, things got even stranger. Amara taught English to kindergartners at an international school in Gangnam. She loved the kids, loved seeing their faces light up when they learned new words. It was supposed to be her safe space. Then the director called her into his office. "Miss Osei," Mr. Park called, "we've received some unusual attention this morning." "What kind of attention?" "The kind that comes with a substantial donation to our building fund and a request that we take extra security measures to ensure your safety." Amara's stomach dropped. Who made the donation? "A private benefactor. They preferred to remain anonymous, but they were quite insistent about your well-being." Mr. Park studied her. "Is there something I should know?" "No," Amara said. "It's just a misunderstanding. I'll handle it." But as she left his office, she saw the two men in suits stationed at the entrance. Security that hadn't been there yesterday. Security that tracked her movements with professional efficiency. She pulled out her phone and typed a message to the number Hana had reluctantly given her, after much begging and several promises that Amara wouldn't actually use it. "Stop sending things. Stop watching me. This is creepy." The response came within seconds. "It's protection, not surveillance. There's a difference. I don't need protection." "Everyone needs protection, especially from my world now that you're connected to me." "I'm not connected to you. We danced once." "I'm connected to you. Same thing." Amara stared at her phone, torn between exasperation and something else she didn't want to name. "Leave me alone." "Can't, have tried. Physically impossible. It's very inconvenient." Despite herself, she smiled. "You're insane." "You said that last night. Still true, still your fault." 3 days of flower deliveries. 3 days of mysterious security upgrades everywhere she went. 3 days of texts that ranged from apologetic to absurd. Amara was exhausted. She escaped to her favorite coffee shop near the school, a tiny place run by a grandmother who spoke even less English than Amara spoke Korean, but who made incredible iced Americanos. She was halfway through her coffee when someone slid into the seat across from her. "This is becoming a problem," Kang Minho said. Amara nearly choked. "How did you?" "I know everywhere you go." He said it simply, without menace. "I also know you take this route home, that you buy triangle kimbap from the convenience store on Tuesdays, and that you call your mother every Sunday at 9 p.m. Seoul time. That's stalking. That's due diligence. My enemies know these things too. The difference is I'm trying to protect you. They're trying to figure out how to use you against me." "I'm not with you. There's no you to use me against." He leaned back, studying her. In daylight, without the club's dramatic lighting, he was even more striking. Sharp cheekbones, eyes that shifted between dark brown and almost black, lips that looked soft despite the hard lines of his face. "Tell me about Ghana," he said suddenly. "What?" "Your home. Tell me about it. I want to understand where you came from." It was so unexpected that Amara found herself answering. She told him about Accra, about growing up near the coast, about her mother's restaurant and her father's bookstore, about leaving to teach abroad because she wanted adventure, wanted to see if she could be brave. "You're very brave," Minho said quietly when she finished. Brave or stupid, hard to tell the difference sometimes. "Brave," he insisted. "Stupid people don't stand up to dangerous men, they just comply." "Is this where you tell me I should be afraid of you?" "I'm telling you that you should be afraid of my world. I can control myself. I can't control everyone else who sees you as my weakness." "I'm not your weakness. I'm not your anything." His eyes went dark. "You're my everything. I realized it the moment you slapped me, maybe even before that when you looked at me like I was just a man, not a monster, not a king, just a man who needed to learn better manners." "That's not love, that's novelty." "Call it whatever you want, doesn't change how I feel." He reached across the table but stopped short of touching her hand. "Have dinner with me, one proper dinner. If afterward you still want nothing to do with me, I'll back off." "You promise?" "I promise to try." At her skeptical look, he smiled slightly. "I'm being honest. Walking away from you might be beyond my capabilities, but I'll do my best if that's what you want." She agreed to dinner. Partly because she was curious, partly because she hoped feeding this insanity would make it dissipate, mostly because, despite everything, she wanted to understand him. He picked her up himself, driving a sleek black car that probably cost more than her student loans. He ditched the suit for something more casual, dark jeans, a fitted black shirt, leather jacket. He looked younger this way, more human. "Where are we going?" she asked as they pulled away from her building. "Somewhere quiet, where we can talk without people staring." "People are always going to stare at us." "At you," he corrected. "You're beautiful, I'm just lucky to be seen with you." "Did you seriously just use a pickup line?" "Was it bad? I'm out of practice." He glanced at her. "Actually, I was never in practice. Usually I just exist and women appear." "That sounds exhausting for you." "It is. You have no idea how much energy it takes to avoid everyone." His smile turned self-deprecating. "Then you showed up and ruined my carefully maintained isolation." The restaurant was on the top floor of a building in Gangnam, completely empty except for staff. Minho had rented out the entire place. "This is excessive," Amara said as they sat down. "I wanted privacy." "You could have just asked for a quiet table." "I don't do things halfway." They ordered, he in Korean, she pointing at pictures on the menu, and settled into a surprisingly comfortable silence. "Tell me about your family," Amara said eventually. His expression shuddered. Not a happy topic. "Tell me anyway." He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "My father was brilliant and brutal, built an empire from nothing through calculated violence and strategic alliances. My mother was the daughter of a rival family. Their marriage was political. But they loved each other. My father loved her obsessively. She tolerated him. When I was 15, an enemy found them alone at our vacation house." His voice went flat. "They were both killed. I survived because my father made me hide in a closet. I watched through the slats as they died." "Minho," Amara breathed. "I took over at 16, made every person involved pay, became exactly what my father trained me to be." He looked at her finally, and his eyes were haunted. "Then you walked into that club and looked at me like I was just a rude man who needed to be put in his place, like I was salvageable." "You are salvageable." "Am I?" He leaned forward. "I've killed people, Amara. Not directly, I have people for that, but I've ordered deaths. I've destroyed lives. I've done things that would make you run screaming if you knew the details." "Then why tell me?" "Because I want you to know what you're getting into. If you choose this, choose me. You need to understand who I am." The food arrived, giving them a moment to breathe. They ate in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was thoughtful, weighted with possibility. "I don't understand this," Amara said finally. "How you can be this person, this dangerous, powerful person, and also the man sending me flowers with apologetic notes. They're both real. I'm capable of great violence and great tenderness. Usually the violence, until you. What makes me different?" "You saw me," he said simply. "Not my reputation, not my money, not my power, just me. And instead of being impressed, you slapped me and told me I had no manners." He smiled. It was the most honest interaction I'd had in years. "That's not enough to build a relationship on." "No, but it's enough to start one." He reached across the table again, and this time he did take her hand. His touch was warm, gentle. "I know this is insane. I know I'm asking too much too fast. But I haven't felt human in so long, and you make me feel human. Like maybe I could be more than what my father made me." Amara stared at their joined hands. Every rational part of her brain was screaming to run. But her heart, her stupid, naive heart, wanted to stay. "1 month," she said finally. "Give me 1 month to see if this is real or just infatuation. No more flower deliveries that overwhelm my building. No more security guards at my school. No more watching me constantly. I need to keep you safe. Then do it discreetly. And give me space to breathe, to think, to figure out if I'm making the biggest mistake of my life." He considered this, clearly struggling with the concept of backing off. 1 month, but you have to actually try. No running away at the first sign of my world being complicated. Deal." He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles softly. "I'll make it worth it, I promise." True to his word, Minho backed off. The overwhelming flower deliveries stopped, though a single stem still appeared at her door each morning. The obvious security disappeared, though she suspected it hadn't gone far, just become invisible. But he remained present in smaller ways. Text messages checking how her day went. Pictures of sunsets from different parts of Seoul with captions like "reminded me of you." Late-night phone calls where they talked about everything and nothing. He was courting her, she realized. Actually, genuinely courting her. 2 weeks in, he showed up at her school with lunch. "You said you had cafeteria duty," he explained, holding up a bag from a restaurant she'd mentioned wanting to try. "Thought you might be hungry." They ate on a bench in the playground, while her students pressed their faces against the classroom windows, giggling and whispering. "They're going to gossip about this for weeks," Amara said. "Good, let them know you're taken." "Presumptuous." "Hopeful," he corrected. Then, more seriously, "Am I taking this too slow, too fast? I'm trying to do this right, but I've never done this before. Never dated anyone. Never cared enough to try." He looked at her with such naked vulnerability that it stole her breath. "Tell me what you need." "I need to know more about your world. The real parts you're not telling me." That night, he took her to his penthouse, the first time she'd seen where he actually lived. It was surprisingly understated. Modern, clean lines, expensive, but not ostentatious. The only extravagance was one wall covered entirely with photographs of African sunsets. "Ghana," she breathed, recognizing the landscapes. "I started collecting them after we met, trying to understand what you left behind." He stood behind her, not touching but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "You said you missed the sunsets most. I wanted to see what you saw." Something in Amara's chest cracked open. "You're making this very hard," she whispered. "Making what hard?" "Staying objective, keeping my guard up." "Good." His hands found her shoulders, gentle but present. "I don't want your guard up. I want all of you, even the scared parts." She turned to face him. "Tell me the truth, all of it, what you do, who you are, why people fear you." So he did. He told her about taking over at 16, about the blood he'd spilled to secure his position, about the empire his father built on pain and fear, about the drugs, the gambling, the protection rackets that funded everything. "I've tried to make it less violent," he said. More strategic, less brutal, but it's still an empire built on suffering. I can't change that overnight. Do you want to change it? I do now. You make me want impossible things. A life where I wake up without checking for assassins, where my biggest worry is what to make you for breakfast. He cupped her face gently. But I can't just walk away. Too many people depend on this system. Too many enemies would see it as weakness. What if there was another way? There isn't. What if you slowly legitimized everything? Used the money and influence you have to build something legal. It would take time, but you're talking about years of transition, multiple lifetimes of work. I'm talking about hope, she said firmly. You asked what I need. I need to believe that us isn't just a beautiful disaster waiting to happen. I need to believe you can be more than what your father made you. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. You're going to save me, aren't you? You're going to save yourself. I'm just going to be incredibly stubborn about believing you can. He kissed her then, soft at first, questioning. When she responded, it deepened into something desperate and reverent all at once. I love you, he breathed against her lips. I know it's too soon and too much, but I love you. I've loved you since that first slap. That's insane. You keep saying that. It doesn't make it less true. 3 weeks into their month, everything went wrong. Amara was walking home from the coffee shop when she realized she was being followed. 2 men in casual clothes, trying and failing to look inconspicuous. She pulled out her phone to call Minho, but before she could dial, someone grabbed her from behind. A hand clamped over her mouth. She bit down hard, tasting blood, and was released long enough to scream. Then everything exploded. Minho appeared out of nowhere, moving so fast he was almost a blur. The men who'd grabbed her were on the ground in seconds, unconscious or worse. Are you hurt? His hands were on her face, checking for injuries. Did they hurt you? She was shaking too hard to answer. I'm taking you home, he said, lifting her easily into his arms. My home, where I can protect you properly. Minho. I know what you're going to say, that this proves you should leave, that my world is too dangerous. His voice was rough with emotion. But I can't lose you. I won't. Tell me what I need to do to keep you safe and by my side. At his penthouse, after she'd showered and changed into his clothes, after he'd made her tea with shaking hands, they finally talked. Who were they? She asked. Remnants of the Yamamoto clan. Japanese Yakuza trying to make a move in Seoul. They saw you as leverage. Because of me, you're vulnerable. Because of you, I have something worth protecting. He pulled her onto his lap, holding her like she might disappear. This is my fault. I should have been more careful, should have kept you more distant until I dealt with all threats. Or we could deal with them together. He pulled back to look at her. What? I'm not fragile, Minho. I'm scared, yes. But I'm also tired of being protected like I'm made of glass. She cupped his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. You want me in your life? Then let me actually be in it, all of it. You don't understand what you're asking. Then explain it. Stop shielding me and let me choose knowing everything. The next week was a crash course in Minho's reality. He took her to meetings, not the violent ones, but the strategic sessions where territory and resources were discussed like business deals. He showed her the legitimate fronts, restaurants, real estate, entertainment venues. 30% of my income is legal now, he explained. I've been working toward 50% for 3 years, but every time I try to legitimize one operation, another crisis pulls me back. Then we make a plan, a real one with timelines and goals. He smiled for the first time in days. I'm not going anywhere, Amara said firmly. You're stuck with me, you ridiculous man. He kissed her desperately. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but I'm giving myself to you anyway. The counterattack against the Yamamoto clan was swift and strategic. Minho didn't kill them, at Amara's insistence, but he made sure they understood Seoul was not open territory. You're making me soft, he told her afterward. Exhausted but satisfied. I'm making you human, she corrected. On the night that marked their official month together, Minho took her back to Club Noir. I wanted to bring us full circle, he explained as they walked to the same spot where they'd met. This is where my life began, the real one, not just the existence I had before. He knelt right there, in front of everyone, pulling out a ring that was simultaneously elegant and understated. Amara Osei, you walked into my life and destroyed everything I thought I knew about myself. You made me want to be better, do better, build something worth your love. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. Marry me, not because it's rational or safe or smart. Marry me because you see who I could be and you're brave enough to believe I can get there. The entire club had gone silent, watching. Amara thought about everything that had happened. The danger, the fear, the impossibility of it all. Then she thought about his laugh when she'd slapped him. The flowers, the sunset photographs, the way he held her like she was precious. One condition, she said. Anything. You really commit to going legitimate. 5 years maximum. I'll help you build something legal, something that doesn't require looking over your shoulder constantly. 5 years, he agreed immediately. I'll move heaven and earth if that's what it takes. Then yes, she pulled him up, kissing him as the club erupted in applause and whispers. Yes, I'll marry you, you insane man. The next 5 years were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Minho kept his promise. Slowly, methodically, he started legitimizing operations. The legitimate businesses expanded. The illegal ones contracted or were transferred to associates who understood the eventual end goal. It wasn't smooth. There were challenges from within his organization, men who saw his change as weakness. Amara stood by him through all of it, her quiet strength becoming his anchor. They married quietly, just family and close friends. Amara wore a dress that combined Ghanaian and Korean traditions, and Minho cried when he saw her. I never thought I could have this, he told her at the altar. A real life, a real love. You can have anything you're willing to fight for, she replied. And you, Kang Minho, are the best fighter I know. Their first child, a daughter with Amara's eyes and Minho's stubborn determination, was born 3 years into his transformation. What will you tell her when she's old enough to ask about my past? Minho asked, holding their newborn with terrified gentleness. The truth, that her father made mistakes but chose to be better. That love can change people if they're brave enough to let it. Their son arrived 2 years later, loud and demanding and perfect. Watching Minho with their children, this man who'd once been Seoul's most feared criminal, reading bedtime stories and making silly faces and worrying about preschool enrollment, Amara fell in love with him all over again. You're starring, he said one night after putting the kids to bed. Just admiring my husband. The former criminal. The present father, the future grandfather, the man who chose love over fear. 5 years after his proposal, 1 month before his self-imposed deadline, the final crisis hit. A coalition of rival families, frustrated by Minho's legitimate pivot, decided to make a move. They couldn't attack him legally anymore, so they went after his businesses, his associates, anyone still connected to his past. The old Minho would have responded with overwhelming force, would have burned their operations to the ground, and made examples of everyone involved. But he wasn't that man anymore. Instead, he gathered evidence of their illegal operations and handed everything to prosecutors, used his legitimate influence to pressure their business partners, fought them in boardrooms and courts instead of back alleys. It took 3 months of intense legal warfare, but when it ended, the coalition was broken, not by violence, but by their own exposed corruption. I didn't kill anyone, Minho said wonderingly, standing in their home office surrounded by legal documents. No, you didn't, Amara agreed, wrapping her arms around him from behind. My father would be disappointed. Your father was wrong about a lot of things. Violence isn't strength. Love isn't weakness. And you, my brilliant husband, just proved that. 10 years after that first slap in Club Noir, they stood on the beach in Ghana, watching the sunset together. Their children played in the sand nearby, building castles and shrieking with laughter. Minyo's security team was somewhere in the background. He'd never fully shake the paranoia, and Amara had accepted that. "Do you regret it?" Minho asked, pulling her against his chest. "Choosing me, choosing this life." "Not even a little bit. Even with all the danger, all the complications. Especially because of those things. Easy love isn't real love. We fought for this for each other, for our family, for the life we built together." She turned in his arms. "You gave up an empire for me." "No," he corrected softly. "I gave up an empire that was destroying me. You gave me something better, a real life, a real family, real happiness." He kissed her as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold, the same sunset he'd spent years collecting in photographs. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "From that first slap to this moment to every moment after. I love you too, my reformed gangster." Completely reformed, legally verified as legitimate by 3 countries. Still insane, though. "Still insane," he agreed. "Still yours." Their daughter ran up, tugging on Minyo's pants. "Daddy, come see my castle." "Coming, princess." He let her drag him toward the sand, glancing back at Amara with a smile that was pure joy. Watching them, her dangerous man teaching their daughter architectural principles of sandcastle construction, her son demanding his turn for attention, the sunset painting everything golden. Amara thought about that night in Club Noir. She'd slapped him, thinking it would be just another forgotten moment in a foreign city. Instead, she'd slapped him awake. And in doing so, she'd woken herself up too. 20 years later, they attended a charity gala in Seoul. Minho was fully legitimate now, running a security consulting firm that was genuinely legal. His expertise in understanding criminal operations made him invaluable to law enforcement and businesses alike. Amara ran a foundation supporting international teachers and cross-cultural education. Their work had helped hundreds of people like her, foreigners navigating new countries, building new lives. Their children were grown now. Their daughter was studying international law, their son was in business school. Both were disgustingly well-adjusted considering their father's history. At the gala, someone approached them, a young woman, nervous but determined. "Mr. Kang, I wanted to thank you. Your foundation's mentorship program helped me when I first came to Seoul. I felt so lost and—" "It was our pleasure," Minho said warmly. "Are you settling in well?" "Yes, thanks to people like you who believe in second chances." After she left, Amara squeezed Minyo's hand. "Second chances," she repeated. "Third chances, fourth chances, as many as it takes," he replied, pulling her onto the dance floor. "You taught me that." They moved together the way they had that first night, perfectly synchronized, completely comfortable, absolutely in love. "Do you ever think about it?" Amara asked. "That night, how differently everything could have gone." "Every day, if you'd been a little less brave, a little more cautious, if I'd been in a worse mood." He shook his head. "The universe aligned perfectly that night. Or I'm just stubborn, and you're just crazy." "That too," he smiled. "Best slap I ever received. Best mistake I ever made." "Not a mistake," he said softly. "The best decision either of us ever made. You saw someone worth saving in a man who'd forgotten how to save himself. You did the saving. I just reminded you why." As the music swelled around them, as other couples filled the dance floor, as their life together stretched into a future neither had imagined possible, Minho leaned down and whispered, "Thank you for the slap, for the chance, for everything after." Amara kissed him, right there in front of everyone, the way she'd wanted to that first night but had been too cautious to try. "Thank you for being worth the risk." And somewhere in Seoul, in a nightclub that had been renovated and renamed, but still stood where it had always been, the spot where a Ghanaian teacher slapped a Korean Mafia boss became legend. Because that's where 2 impossible people made an impossible love story possible. That's where fear became courage, where danger became safety, where a slap became salvation, and where 2 people who had no business being together found their way to forever. So there you have it, The story of how one slap changed 2 lives completely. The lesson: sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is exactly what you need to do. Amara could have apologized, backed down, let it go. But she stood her ground and accidentally woke up a man who'd been asleep for years. Love isn't always safe. Sometimes it's inconvenient, improbable, and absolutely insane. But when it's real, when it's the kind of love that makes you want to be better, that's worth every risk. If this story blew your mind like I promised, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that their person might be in the most unexpected place, like a nightclub in Seoul where they least expect to find them. And remember, sometimes the biggest mistake you can make is playing it safe when your soul is calling for adventure. Until next time, keep taking those beautiful risks.